evening. Sitting in for Cesc Drilon, I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Sean Yao.
The big stories tonight. President Bongbong Marcos had this parting shot to fellow leaders at the ASEAN Summit. Practice self-restraint in the South China Sea if we want to maintain peace and stability in the region.
And most senators have made their statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth public, except for a few, and most of whom belong to the so-called Duterte bloc.
And the Philippine peso breaches a historic low today at 59.13 against the dollar, making it the worst performer among Southeast Asian currencies this month.
The Philippines is honored to take on the responsibility of leading ASEAN from 2026. We are committed to carrying forward your momentum with purpose and resolve.
President Bongbong Marcos called on ASEAN and China's leaders to exercise self-restraint to maintain peace and stability in the South China Sea. He said this during his intervention speech at the ASEAN-China Summit earlier today on the sidelines of the 47th ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. China was represented by Premier Li Qiang at the summit where Marcos spoke. The president didn't name any country, but highlighted that Philippine officials and fishermen have been subjected to dangerous maneuvers and harassment out in the West Philippine Sea.
He said, of course, if we truly want a pathway for the South China Sea to remain a sea of peace, stability, and prosperity for all, we should not lose sight of the importance of self-restraint on everyone's part. Otherwise, the failure to restrain provocative and dangerous actions further threatens the peace and stability that we have collectively built and cultivated over the years. The day before, President Marcos also slammed Beijing's plan to establish a nature reserve at the Scarborough Shoal, again without naming any country. Marcos told the delegates that the Philippines stands firmly with the ASEAN in working towards an effective and substantive code of conduct in the South China Sea, one that is consistent with international law. The now 11-member ASEAN bloc and China also signed an upgraded free trade agreement earlier today, the so-called 3.0 Free Trade Area. This new protocol will aim to advance the digital and green economies, supply chain connectivity, and the participation of MSMEs. During the summit, Chinese Premier Li Qiang pitched China as an alternative to the protectionist policies of U.S. President Donald Trump.
Now, for his part, President Bongbong Marcos welcomed the expanded trade pact, but with some reservations. He said the Philippines stands ready to work with ASEAN and China to translate our commitments into meaningful outcomes through mutually beneficial cooperation. It must be clear, however, that this cooperation cannot exist alongside coercion. Earlier this afternoon, Malaysia handed over the chairmanship of ASEAN to the Philippines, which means the country will be busy hosting dozens of dialogues and summits next year. In accepting the chairmanship, Marcos highlighted the association's 20-year vision and welcomed the group's 11th member, Timor-Leste.
As your chairship concludes, the Philippines is honored to take on the responsibility of leading ASEAN from 2026. We are committed to carrying forward your momentum and to implement on its first year the ASEAN Community Vision 2045 with purpose and resolve. We likewise remain dedicated to facilitating the further integration of Timor-Leste into the ASEAN family.
Here in the country, more than half of the incumbent senators have now made their statements of assets, liabilities, and net worth, or SAL-Ns, available to the public. 13 released theirs today, including those of the Villar siblings. And that just leaves 5 senators yet to submit their SAL-Ns. Mobile journalist Merimon Reyes has the details.
At least 19 senators have now released copies of their Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth, or SAL-Ns. In the current list, Senator Mark Villar, who released just this evening, declared a net worth of over 1.2 billion pesos. Right behind him is Raffy Tulfo, who declared a little over 1 billion pesos. Tulfo said he shares his assets with his wife, Congresswoman Jocelyn Tulfo. In third place is his brother Erwin, who declared a net worth of almost $500 million pesos. They are followed by Senator Mig Zubiri at 431 million pesos. Zubiri attributed this to his shares in Bukidnon Power Corporation and other companies which he has sold. And rounding out the top 5 richest senators Francisca Villar, who registered a net worth of 362 million pesos. Other senators worth at least 100 million pesos are Ping Lacson, Robert Padilla, Jinggoy Estrada, Nito Lapid, Senate President Tito Soto, JV Ejercito, and Pia Cayetano. Senator Win Gatchalian declared a net worth of 89 million pesos, while Bam Aquino 86 million pesos, Loren Legarda 79 million pesos, and Joel Villanueva 49 million pesos. Rounding up the list of those who have submitted SALNs are Kiko Pangilinan declaring a 26.7 million net worth, while Risa Hontiveros and Chis Escudero are at the bottom of the list so far, both of them declaring assets worth a little over 18 million pesos. The 5 senators who have yet to release their SALNs all belong to the minority bloc. They are Minority Leader Alan Peter Cayetano, Bato de la Rosa, Bongo, Prudante Marcoleta, and Amy Marcos. There's no word on when or if they will make their assets known. Ombudsman Remulla recently opened the door to public access of SALNs, reversing Ombudsman Martirez's decision. All government employees are mandated by law to declare their net worth annually to promote transparency and prevent corruption. The Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees also mandates the disclosure of financial connections and relatives in government service. Officials are also expected to declare conjugal assets, meaning the SALNs should have included the assets and liabilities of their spouses, but it's not clear how many of them did so in their 2024 filings. Kapatid Mobile journalist Mary Monreyes, we are One News.
And the Senate Electoral Tribunal, or SET, confirms that a quo warranto petition is still pending against Senator Erwin Tulfo. This all happened as the SET flashed a presentation showing pending cases before the tribunal during the Finance Committee hearing on its budget. According to SET's Deputy Secretary, Attorney Eleanor Anunciacion, a certain Bertini Cataluna Causing has filed this petition on July 15 on the grounds of Tulfo's citizenship. If this petition is approved, this could warrant Tulfo's removal from the Senate. Causing was also behind the disqualification case against Senator Tulfo during the campaign period, which was junked by the COMELEC. For his part, Tulfo said he is ready to face the complaint as it is nothing new. Recall that Tulfo was also challenged due to his citizenship when he was DSWD Secretary in 2022. He had confirmed being an American citizen during the 80s. But he had long rescinded his U.S. citizenship and even before he was given that cabinet post.
Now, meantime, the Office of the Ombudsman has drawn the line on contractor couple Curly and Sara Discaya. Assistant Ombudsman Miko Clavano said they are no longer considering the Discayas as possible state witnesses. According to Clavano, the couple's refusal to cooperate in the flood control investigation cost them their chance. In fact, the Discaya couple is now looking at being tagged as hostile witnesses and facing possible charges of malversation of public funds, among others. Clavano said the Discayas are deeply involved in the flood control mess with some 4,000 bids across the country, and that the Ombudsman is ready to move forward with cases against them should they continue to resist.
Kung gusto talaga nila na maging uncooperative, then the government has no choice but to run after them with every ounce of effort that we can muster. Lahat po talaga ng kabalastugan ng DPWH pinasukan na talaga ng Discaya. So I don't think they're in any position to bargain with the government, especially with their status as state witness. It's beyond that already dahil sa nakita ho nating ebidensya. Tignan na lang ho natin kung hindi pa rin sila magko-cooperate kung nakakulong na sila.
Okay, let's try to break that down a little bit more with our first guest tonight. Joining us live in the studio, we've got the newly installed spokesperson of the Department of Justice, Attorney Polo Martinez. Welcome to our set, Attorney.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming all the way here.
Yeah, it's a long drive.
First things first, you actually only joined DOJ earlier this year, I heard.
Yes, this will be my 10th month in the department.
10th month.
So it's a short stint so far.
Oh, wow.
But you're a prosecutor, right?
I am, yes. I'm a prosecution attorney. I was appointed in December of last year. I assumed office in January, so 10 months, it's a wild ride.
That's a crazy fast timeline. What were you before DOJ?
I was a private practitioner in a law office in Makati. So I did litigation, arbitration, full service law firm. So I did mostly anything under the sun.
Oh, okay. So this is your first stint in public service?
In government, that's right, yes.
Okay, so when you were a prosecutor, who did you have to work under were you under the prosecutorial service, or who did you have to tail?
Yeah, so all prosecutors are under the National Prosecution Service. That's the NPS. I had the good fortune of being under the Prosecutor General. So he took me under his wing. I'm under his office now. I'm one of his staff members. So as time went by,
PG Fadulyon.
yes, PG Fadulyon, the Prosecutor General, Chief Dong.
Yes, Chief Dong Fagul.
when you first entered DOJ, you mean?
Yes, yes,
So
immediately.
so you're one of the newest and the youngest DOJ employees.
That's right. At least
How did
within
you
the,
become spokesperson so quick, if I might put it bluntly? I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of other lawyers and more seasoned career officials at the DOJ that wouldn't mind being spokesperson. It's a very high-profile gig. So what do you think got you over the line?
honestly, it was just, I was taken, it was a surprise to me as well. Okay, it was something I did not apply for, did not expect. One day I was called into the office, it was offered to me, and I said, okay, it came after the transfer of, or the movement of Assistant Ombudsman, now Assistant Ombudsman Miko Clavano to the Ombudsman. No? So the spokesperson role was vacant. They offered it to me, and I just, who am I to say no to it? Right?
So it was former USEC, now acting Assistant Ombudsman Miko Clavan who offered you the role.
No, not him. It was rendered vacant because of his movement to the Ombudsman. He was appointed Assistant Ombudsman. So all of this never would have happened if Ombudsman, now Ombudsman Boying, the former Secretary of Justice, never would have moved. So
Well, that's what I wanted to find out. How has it been since, you know, his, well, it's not really super abrupt, but it's still shocking when it actually happens. He actually became the ombudsman, and then he took Asik Miko, now Assistant Ombudsman, with him. How was that vacancy like? And, you know, what can we expect? Can we expect continuity over at the DOJ?
well, the department has its thrust. That's always been justice. I'd like to think it's justice without apology. That's what I would say. No? With the new administration, I mean, with the new management, the new OIC Secretary of Justice, Frederick Vida, we could expect continuity, that's right, because he was an undersecretary before he was appointed OIC. And he was under as well the management of Secretary Boying back then as well. So whatever Secretary Boying started, whatever the administration has begun, we could expect continuity, that's for sure.
Well, quite busy the last few weeks since you were appointed as spokesman, Attorney Polo. But let's talk about the Discayas. Let's talk about the flood control
Sure.
controversy, basically. So earlier today, the Ombudsman already announced that it's unlikely that the Discayas will still be considered as state witnesses, and now they could be considered hostile witnesses. What does that mean?
So first, we want to make it clear that we cannot speak for the ombudsman or anyone from the office of the ombudsman. That's their prerogative. That's their mandate. The mandate being that they can assess witnesses within their own power and competence under RA 6770. That's the Ombudsman Act. Now, we are independent. The DOJ is independent of the ombudsman, meaning we have our own assessment of any would-be applicants for state witness, any covered witnesses. So when Assistant Ombudsman Miko Clavano says that the Discayas can no longer be considered covered witnesses, that they're rendered hostile, that's within their own prerogative, right? That's not to say that we do not adopt the same view, okay? Because currently, while there is a categorical pronouncement that the Discayas are no longer applying for state witnesses or are no longer being considered, we are still carefully evaluating their testimony, the contents and the substance of their testimonies, seeing if there's merit to it, seeing if there's necessity for them or for us to adopt their testimonies and for them to be adopted as state witnesses.
But how does that work? Because they already said to the ICI that we're not, you know, gonna cooperate with you anymore. Are they still in contact with the DOJ, or at least their attorneys? Are they still willing to cooperate with the DOJ?
So now, again, as I said earlier, there's no categorical pronouncement yet. No categorical statement from them. They're not going to be cooperating. But that's their choice. Whether or not they want to be state witnesses or they want to pursue their application, we're of the position that it does not really matter whether you want or not. Because, you know, it's you as applicants who are applying, right? It's as simple as when you apply for a job or for work. You have to fulfill certain conditions in the application or in the agreement with the office. And if you're not willing to cooperate, that's your prerogative. We're not going to force you. We're not going to stop you. But if you don't comply, you don't adhere to what we impose or we prescribe, then we cannot give you necessarily what it is you're applying for.
But they have said that they're not cooperating anymore through their lawyer. There has been a categorical statement to that fact.
Okay, let me clarify. No? That statement was made with respect to the ICI, which is independent of the DOJ.
You're saying they might potentially cooperate with DOJ and not ICI? Is that the signals that they're sending right now?
That is correct, right. So if they said that to the ICI, we, on our part at least, have not heard any pronouncement from them yet. So it would be inaccurate to say that on our part, that they have ceased cooperating with the DOJ, at least for now.
So the DOJ is still talking to the Discayas?
Yes.
Or the lines
Okay.
are, is it an
All right,
ongoing
so-
thing?
yeah.
Because I know they have been to your office. It was very much covered by the media. Have they been back since?
No,
Not yet?
Not yet, not yet.
Okay, so you're still talking to them, and what I picked up from your last two answers is that you're taking a different stance from the ombudsman at this point. So
have-
Ombudsman Remulla has already said, no, in my book, that they don't qualify as state witnesses. Are we then now at a place where the DOJ under a new secretary might take a different tack?
Okay, so all I'm saying is that there has been no pronouncement yet. We're not saying we're considering them already as state witnesses. Neither are we saying that they are no longer being, or their applications or testimonies are no longer being evaluated. What we're saying is that it's not as definite or definitive
So
with respect to
basically,
our department.
Long story short, in layman's term, your door is still open. Your communication lines are still open, at least with the DOJ and between the Discayas and their attorney.
Insofar as they're willing to cooperate with us.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because they've never made any statement to us,
To DOJ.
to DOJ, just to be clear.
Okay.
I
It's
think they have to
different
make
to
it
the
official.
ICI.
Yeah, it's only been a few weeks since Boying Remulla crossed over to Ombudsman.
Yeah,
2-3 weeks. What's changed in that time? Why am I now sensing a different tactic here, a different shift in tone?
No, I don't think there's any shift in tone. No.
You already said that you're not necessarily taking the stance of former DOJ Secretary Remulla. So if the new DOJ under a new secretary will take a different direction, what changed in between?
The ombudsman statements, now ombudsman statements, pertain to his office alone.
Yeah.
So whatever statements he had made before are transferred, they're transmuted to his office only, to solely. We're committed to pursuing justice here, and if the Discayas or any other state witness are still willing to cooperate, our doors are still open, very
Yeah.
much open.
I think unless they make this whole pronouncement that they're not willing to cooperate until it's official, then your doors are still open, right?
Yes, yes,
That's
of
it for
course.
the Justice Department.
But
But,
it-
yeah.
Yeah, I would just like to make it clear. It's their prerogative.
Yeah, yeah.
No, we're not going to force them, but if they don't want to, it does not matter. It really does not.
Okay.
So the new Justice Secretary basically has not made up his mind as far as the Discaya couple is concerned.
Yes.
Is what
yes,
you're saying.
That's right.
Okay, but in general, right, with how the investigation has been going, and we all know that the DOJ is closely working with the ICI because they kind of get their teeth from you or they borrow your teeth sometimes, right, if we want to put it that way. When it comes to the Discayas, what does the DOJ stand? Do you think that there's still a possibility, for example, they're willing, they don't close that door, are they still eligible to be state witnesses, broadly speaking?
Right now, they are. It's still open. And even if the case does go to court, the door will still be open then, because you could always file a motion to discharge witness with the courts. Right. So right now, again, it's two different phases. So you have an application for state witness, which could be pending, while the case, an ongoing case, is still as well pending, or before the case, as what's happening now. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah.
Okay, so the Ombudsman's office deputized the Justice Department to conduct a preliminary investigation when it comes to the flood control scam. Where is the DOJ now in your investigation?
So we are currently about to begin preliminary investigation on these 5 cases. So when we say that the Ombudsman has deputized the DOJ, this is only with respect to 5 cases, all pertaining to projects within the locality of Bulacan. Okay, so
Just
and-
those 5.
Just those 5. Just those 5. Because again, there are also pending cases with the ombudsman itself, right? So we were deputized only insofar as those 5 cases are concerned. And with respect to those 5 cases, we are about to conduct preliminary investigation. Subpoenas are to be issued soon. We could expect the DOJ and the prosecutors under the DOJ to be issuing the subpoenas for the respondents in these cases.
And do you expect the preliminary investigation phase to be a bit quicker? I'm assuming you're doing the quote-unquote easiest to build up cases first, like the ghost ones, the really substandard ones.
I wouldn't be able to say that it will be a lot quicker. Because again, this is a process. You have a process of evaluation of the evidence, which which would be preceded necessarily by the collection of the evidence, and all this has to be done meticulously, thoroughly.
The 5 cases that Pawi mentioned were the ones that the ICI referred?
No, but the cases which were filed by the DOJ with the ombudsman, referred back by the ombudsman to the DOJ.
Guys. Okay, wala pang sinasubmit yung ICI at this point.
Wala. At least nothing with respect to our own investigation.
Okay, because
they have their own, they're conducting their own.
Correct,
But
correct.
if I could just clarify,
Yes.
you were right when you said that the ICI has its own mandate to investigate, and they have powers too. Part of their powers is to request for certain documents from other agencies, one of which is the DOJ. So they could do that, they have done that. But that does not mean that our investigation is the same as theirs.
Correct.
Because they have their own team, they have their own witnesses, we have our own investigations with different departments, DPWH included. So the 2 investigations are separate and distinct.
Correct. So based on the articles I've been reading, it so far looks like that. But how would that work in real life? I mean, there could be questions of, di ba redundant? Second, like, di ba to sayang ng resources, ng money? Why don't you just put your heads together? I mean, people could say that as criticism. So what are the perks of doing it this way?
Okay, so the reason why it's being done separately is because each department or agency, and the ICI is not a department, has its own mandate. Our mandate is to prosecute crimes. So the crimes right now, or the charges we're looking at would be malversation of public funds, violation of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, which is RA 3019, and then you have perjury as well. Okay, so we are looking at the evidence with a view or with a mind that the evidence should fit the charges being charged.
Yeah.
Right? The ICI is different. It's more specific and technical.
It's just recommendatory. Yeah.
um,
it's not. They're basically not coming to a standard of
They're just
conviction with
fact-finding,
absolute certainty.
right? So gathering info,
Yeah.
basically.
Fact-finding, yeah, but it's also more specific and technical because the ICI is the investigation for specifically for infrastructure, which means that they can dig deeper into these
The technicalities of this
technicalities.
pillar, the
Yeah, that's
materials
right.
used.
That's correct.
So it's
As opposed to our job as the prosecution, that we have specific charges we're looking at, ensuring that the evidence at hand and the acts committed in relation to these different projects fit the elements that constitute these crimes or these charges.
And only then will they pass it on either to you or to the ombudsman, whatever the case may
Or
be.
the-
I
yes,
suppose.
yes, that's
or
correct.
other agencies.
Yes, yes. that's
So
correct.
what are these charges? The ones that you're immediately looking to file. We're talking malversation through falsification, which I've heard already. What else?
Anti-Graft and Corrupt
Anti-graft.
Practices Act, specifically Section 3, subsection E, which is giving unwarranted benefits to private parties, which gives, in effect, gives an undue advantage to these parties, to the detriment and prejudice of government.
Correct.
Right, to
But
the
the
public.
question is,
What else?
Attorney Polo, yeah, so you mentioned those cases already, but will public officials be charged? Talking about congressmen, senators who have been implicated in this scandal. And how easy will it be to prove? What kind of evidence will you be looking at, considering that this is a very sophisticated, widespread, systematic crime that we're looking at, so you might not even have paper trail.
So again, the thrust of the department is that it's going to be justice without apology. Okay, there will be no sacred cows. That's the motto we echo. That's what the ombudsman, well, now Ombudsman Boying Remulla said when he was Secretary of Justice. So it goes far. It does not. It will not limit the investigation or the charges just against DPWH officials or engineers, local elected officials, congressmen. We will look into that as well. So we will go where the evidence leads us.
But they have, recently also increased that quantum of evidence requirement. I'm not sure I'm saying it properly in like a lawyer terms, but it has to be. It's not anymore like it has to be reasonable certainty of conviction, right? It's
That's right.
another level. So how much harder would it be? And do you think some cases could fall into that crack, like Pawi was saying, na, baka hindi ka makakuha kasi wala ng paper trail. So what happens now to
Wala
those
naman
cases?
talaga paper trail is what we've been told
Karamihan.
by everyone we've spoken to. There's not going to be a smoking gun. There's not going to be a voucher saying, yes, I received 100 million in kickbacks, right? So in the
Paano na
absence
yung
of
quantum
that,
of evidence?
what is the strongest evidence that the DOJ will have? I mean, corroborating corroborating testimonies is one. What else is there?
Okay, so the difficult part here is that we cannot really say what the evidence is currently. Now that will be preempting the investigation by the panel of prosecutors in charge, preliminary investigation specifically. What we could say though is that even with a higher standard of proof, I'm glad you mentioned that, it is not meant to derail or slow down the process. We want to disabuse people's minds that mas may sobrang the higher quantum of evidence will impede our investigation. In fact, the standard is there to ensure that if this case were to go to trial, we would have
You will
sufficient
get a
evidence
conviction.
to be able to, a
Right.
conviction, that's correct, right? To have those who are the accused, but accountability for all the acts that were committed, and to have those who should be held guilty convicted.
Yeah, because especially we just saw what happened to some of the pork barrel cases. A lot of them were just just an acquittal last week, a big acquittal last week.
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys know this. A lot of the accused will go with high-powered lawyers who will, hide behind technicalities, legalese, right? Kick the can down the road, dribble the case. But anyways, I was going to ask, what is the latest on Zaldi Ko, former Congressman Zaldi Ko? And there is a big question there of how far away you guys are from. Well, I know there's a blue notice out. See, Ombudsman Remulla talked to us about that last week. How far are you from, for instance, a more concrete step like canceling his passport, for instance?
Okay, so canceling the passport by Zaldico or anyone's passport for that matter is not within the domain of
Correct.
DOJ.
It's DFA,
It's
yes.
DFA.
But DOJ can make a recommendation.
We can request it, but and so in the same way that any other department could request for it, based on the evidence that we have. So right now, we currently do not have any leads yet. So again, that's part of the investigation. But we assure the public that once we do, we would forthwith do what we have to do.
I saw what you did there. No leads yet, meaning you're not looking to, there are no initiatives, you're not taking steps to cancel his passport or
Doesn't he have to
or
have
tap
anything yet?
Interpol even.
Doesn't he have to have a case filed against him?
That's true.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm
yes.
glad you mentioned that because the difficulty here is criminal laws, and I'm not just saying like with respect to the Philippines, but all over the world. It's territorial. Okay, that's a basic principle of criminal law, territoriality, meaning to say that we cannot file a case against you if you're not within our land, but you're not sojourning within our jurisdiction at the moment. It's going to be difficult for us. So if we find out the country where you're located, we could then issue a request for extradition, but only insofar as both countries have an existing and standing extradition treaty between each other. So the first question is, where is he? Number two, even assuming that we know where he is, where the country is located, do we have an extradition treaty with that country? So those are two obstacles we're looking at right now.
The DOJ doesn't know where he is?
Not yet, no. We are looking though.
May
'Cause,
ethics complaint against him though.
with the
It doesn't,
Congress.
but it doesn't translate. It needs to be a criminal charge.
Yes, no. It's we cannot invoke the extradition treaty with any country
On the basis of a congressional ethics
that's right.
complaint.
That's because that's within our locality. That doesn't concern international law.
So have you guys been getting pressure to like, filean nyo na ng kaso yan?
Of
para
course, the pressure is real.
Right, but it's really hard, right? In as far as how do we not give away too much about the investigation, but like is there a chance that it could happen? Because a lot of people are really clamoring for this. In fact, on their show earlier this afternoon, they spoke to ICI Executive Director Brian Osaka, and he said na, ayun na, I mean, they've already sent the second subpoena pa lang, so they want to follow that whole process, right? Before they can cite him in contempt, et cetera, et cetera. And for those matters, is it the DOJ that's also assisting them with those kind of legal matters?
No, again, they have their own mandate. We have our own mandate. We could cooperate with each other insofar as the investigation is concerned, in terms of collecting evidence. But the evaluation by each department, each agency would be wholly different from the other. Okay, not to say wholly different, but that it's independent of each other. Let me correct myself.
You said, you mentioned, Attorney Polo, that a case needs to be filed against Congressman Zaldico if we want to send him back home. And you said there are no leads yet as of now. I was wondering if you can take off from Technical Sergeant Orly Guteza's statement before the Senate, where he detailed this whole process of delivering basura, quote-unquote, maletas of cash to the condominium of Congressman Zaldico. Will that statement or testament stand before the DOJ, even if regional trial court already found that his affidavit was apparently not really notarized by an attorney?
Okay, so one hears many things. No? So whether the truth is among them is uncertain. In this case, after that judgment by the Manila Court Trial Court, it's going to be difficult for us to. Well, let's put it this way: a Manila courts are independent of the prosecution. Okay, they have their own mandate. The judges act on their own discretion, independence, probity, their own judgment, right? So, if the evidence as it is insufficient for us to be able to file cases, but then there's not much we can do at this point. It's not to say that no complaint will be filed. No, we again with the DOJ, our cooperation with law enforcement begins once a complaint is filed with us. Looking for Zaldico is a law enforcement prerogative. It's a mandate by law enforcement. That's not the DOJ's mandate. Just want to make that clear.
Okay, that's a fair point.
He's not reached out to the DOJ in any capacity.
No, he's not. No.
Okay, we're being told to wrap up. Just very quickly on a lighter note, do you know that you've gone viral recently since you got named as a spokesperson?
I've been receiving. My friends have been sending
Totoo
it
ba
to
yun,
me.
or is it AI?
Which one?
The
Alin?
videos of you all over social
What
media.
videos?
I don't
What
know,
video?
the videos. They're
I don't know. I only see his interviews outside the DOJ. Those are the only
Really?
videos
I've never
been
seen you
seeing.
give an interview or even
Ambush.
watch one of your interview, but yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
I will show you after the show. But
Plausible
anyways,
deniability for attorney.
our staff in the studio were the ones even telling me about it. I was like, oh, I didn't know he'd gone viral. But congratulations on the new post, DOJ spokesperson, attorney Polo Martinez. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're just going to take a quick break, but coming up, the peso sinks to a historic low and in the middle yet of an infrastructure scandal. That story and more next. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back. You're watching The Big Story here at One News. The Philippine peso sank to a new low today, breaching 59 pesos to the dollar as concerns mount over economic growth and corruption in flood control projects. The local currency closed at 59.13 against the greenback, marking its worst finish not just this year but ever. It also hit a new intraday low of 59.2, below its previous all-time record of 59 pesos. The last time it tested the 59 to the dollar level was in November last year. The Bangko Sentral says the peso's weakness reflects market concerns over slower growth and expectations of further policy easing. It also said that the country's strong foreign reserves and steady inflows from remittances, BPOs, and tourism will continue to support the local unit. One analyst, meanwhile, called the depreciation a knee-jerk reaction after the BSP hinted at a potential rate cut by December.
These are short-term pains, no pain, no gain. So we're seeing the peso slide a bit versus the US dollar, and that's really because of this yield differential maybe narrowing to 50 basis points between the US dollar and the peso. So this is the market really doing a knee-jerk reaction to this hawkish signal from the BSP of a potential cut by December.
And as the peso weakens, another question is coming up again. Will basic goods get more expensive? And today, Malacanang clarified that President Marcos did not order a price freeze on basic goods, but instead directed the Trade Department to just strictly monitor commodity prices. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said the president instructed the agency to work closely with manufacturers to prevent price hikes on basic and prime goods through the end of the year. She emphasized that the policy focuses on monitoring and coordination and not on imposing a price freeze.
Alinsunod sa kautusan ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na hindi magkakaroon ng paggalaw sa mga presyo ng mga bilihin bago ang holiday season, inanunsyo ng Department of Trade and Industry o DTI na walang price increase sa basic at prime commodities sa bansa hanggang sa matapos ang kasalukuyang taon.
Okay, let's talk more about this. We're speaking to Jonathan Ravella, Senior Advisor of Reyes Takandong and Co. Hi, Jonas. Good to see you again.
Good evening, lady.
Parang every time we call you back in, may new all-time low, no? So, okay.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
59.13 to the dollar, new all-time low. A lot of people getting jittery, thinking, oh, baka it might hit 60 against the greenback. What do you think?
It will. It is highly probable. Okay, so I think the last time we talked about the exchange rate was the knee-jerk reaction to the floodgate. So the high at that time was 58.50. Now we're at around 59.20, which is the intraday high. So there are actually three factors to this depreciation. No? So the first is the floodgate, which we already saw the peso depreciate to 58.50. The second one is that given the impact of this floodgate, we expect slower growth, and therefore there might be a need to further cut policy rates. So that's the second factor. The third factor is that there is an ASEAN meet, and President Trump is in Asia, and people are focused on two things: what will happen to the US-China trade talk, and of course the uncertainty that is happening in Japan, given its first new female prime minister. So this created a dollar strength. So the bigger component now is the stronger dollar.
So that's the culprit, you think? So it's more of a stronger dollar? Because I'm just, again, looking at always, and during these times, I look at your Viber group, and you have a graph that you posted, further weakness still ahead, and you labeled it the technical view and the Trump view. What does Trump have to do with all of this, Jonas?
Okay. The technical view is that the trend continues to highlight an uptrend for the currency, meaning there's continued dollar strength, whether it's the factor of slower growth, and sometimes pattern precedes politics. So over the past months, we've seen the peso slowly or creeping depreciation. And primarily, the reason for that is also the impact of the 19% tariff. Right now, we're not talking about it again since June because the Supreme Court in the US have not finalized whether this reciprocal tariff will be there. But sooner or later, people will have to realize that Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and the Philippines share that 19%. So you need to factor that additional 9%. And the only way to offset that is slightly depreciate the peso. So that's the reason why moving forward, let's say in 2026, will we see the 60 level? Yes, because that will slowly lessen the impact of the 19% tariff to our exports. So that will at least give us competitiveness.
Well, speaking of the tariffs, Jonas, you have the United States also recently announcing that they approved a 0% import tariff for specific products originating from 3 ASEAN countries. That's Thailand, Malaysia, and Cambodia. And a lot of people are asking, why isn't the Philippines included, considering that we're one of the longest or longtime allies of the United States? Your thoughts on that?
I think the trade talks between the US and the Philippines are still ongoing. So we don't know what's happening there. So there's not been any updates. We are hopeful that whether the president of the Philippines and President Trump are able to meet or discuss something over the sidelines in their ASEAN to probably see more details about our trade deal. But in the meantime, that actually adds to our uncertainty because a peso, 1 peso depreciation, the impact to inflation is 0.06%, just as an impact on a 1 peso depreciation.
Okay, so what you're saying is that because we're still in that uncertainty period, this is really weighing on, well, I guess, actually contributing to dollar strength, right? So you see, where do you see this peaking or bottoming from whichever perspective you're looking at it from?
Despite the fact that a lot of people would probably think that I'm a realist and I always talk about something negative, I'm not as worried as we're in the fourth quarter. And typically, this is the quarter where we see a lot of remittances. So whether we continue to trade above 59, I believe that we could probably end the year at 58.90. I think that is a good level for both competitiveness of the Philippines. That would be good for our exports, especially our year-to-date tourist arrivals are just around 3.9 million. So we're one of the lowest in the ASEAN. So a slightly weaker peso should put a boost to tourism, no? And this is supposedly a time where we get to see a lot of Filipinos overseas coming to the Philippines. So we should take advantage of this fourth quarter, no? To get to see one thing, a resilient consumption. So that should actually help the outlook for the Philippines. As I said, the issue today is that there's nothing wrong with Philippine fundamentals. We have a resilient domestic economy. It's just that we're clouded by this floodgate scandal. One of the things that helps the economy grow is government spending. If they're not going to spend that much, then where are we going to get the growth? So cutting policy rates also have an impact to the currency, especially if we're cutting faster than the Fed.
So I take it to mean you think it'll go to $60, 60 pesos to the dollar, but not this year.
Next year.
We're not
Yeah.
looking at a year and yeah.
I think the year end will most likely be at around 58, or that's my best case, 58. My baseline case is 58.90. So again, taking into account the tariff issues, so that's the reason why it's my baseline was 58.90. If we're going to see more resilient remittances, and you have to understand there are also issues of the tax that or sort of tariff that on undocumented Filipinos in the US. So that could also mean lesser remittances. But we believe that the fourth quarter, this is where the bulk of remittances are sent.
Yes.
Because of Christmas season.
Yeah, so correct. You've got the remittances, you've got salaries for the BPO workers, and then you've got the tourism receipts. So itong 60 to the dollar level, how soon do you think? What's your forecast around that?
Oh, probably that's going to be in maybe in the first 6 months of 2026.
Okay.
I guess when tariff issue really sinks in. And I think the key phrase there is competitive devaluation. When the likes of Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand will want to ensure that they will have the same export sales compared to the previous year without offsetting the impact of the tariff.
Okay, well, every time that the peso weakens against the dollar, of course, there's the good side, there is the bad side. Then to focus on the bad side, which is for our very fledgling and whatever's left of our exporters. And of course, we're still in this tariff uncertainty, and we get a lot of raw materials also from China. So, it's that whole, I'm sure you know this, Jonas, how is it going to look for those people who are in manufacturing, who are exporting?
Okay, so you have to understand we don't know what's happening between the tariff deals between China. But sooner or later, China will also need to devalue. So we could also benefit from them. So I'm not as worried about our imports from China, mainly because that they're also going to lose a market like the US. So they will try to sell their excess supplies to ASEAN, and that should benefit us. So that should offset the slight depreciation. But as I said, in the last 10 months, we've seen the very good strategy of the central bank managing currency volatility, especially during I would say the height of floodgate, the initial impact in August, we only saw 58.50. Then we eventually appreciated back to 57. And again, a couple of factors that led to the dollar strength was really more external than our domestic issues of floodgate.
You're saying, of course, all the time, and we know this, that we have very resilient demand here. We are a very consumer-driven economy here in the Philippines. But of course, the palace just said they will be, they had to clarify they're not freezing prices. But the fact that thought even came to our mind, and that they're saying that they will be monitoring prices as Christmas approaches. What are your thoughts on that? What's your takeaway?
Okay, this is what you call inflation expectation. So we know that if the peso depreciates, importing crude oil affects us because of higher transport and then electricity. So these are the things that come to our mind. And of course, this is what we want to try to lessen this inflation expectations. As I said, the impact of the directly impacting inflation on foreign exchange depreciation for every 1 peso is 0.06. So it's very negligible. The problem is our expectation that prices are rising means you are not going to be spending so much. So this is something that because the consumers are still hesitant to spend, the inflation is below 2%. So now that you have other factors that could prevent you from having a very good Noche Buena feast. So probably you might just follow the prescription of the DTI, just using a square ham than using a real ham, so to speak.
So this is Malacanang's, this is the palace's way of trying to signal to the consumer it's okay to spend. We're going to make sure that prices of goods will not go up during the holiday season.
I think it's really more, there's really nothing because inflation right now is 1.7. So it's way below the 2%. So I think we've given the monetary and non-monetary strategies of government, they were able to bring down inflation. But upside risks are there. And one of them is oil prices, especially now that the dollar has strengthened. It becomes another worry for consumers like you and me. So the next is what other factors could trigger, and especially during Christmas, this is something that the Noche Buena index normally gets higher because the demands are higher.
Yeah.
Of course, the key there is either you buy early or use substitutes, right?
Yeah.
I think this is something that the palace is telling us that, there's nothing to be worried about. Even the central bank is cool with this slight adjustment on the peso because they know that they're backed up by the remittances. We have a strong GIR. So this is, I think, not something to be worried about.
Right, so I guess that's something to be happy about this Christmas season. Noche Buena will not be sad. Marami pa ring handa dyan. But the last time we spoke to you, Jonas, on the show, we also talked about whether we're already seeing the negative or the peak negative sentiment of the public when it comes to the corruption scandal. Have things changed since then? What are you seeing?
Well, basically, I guess if we were to talk about the road to redemption, again, this is just my personal view, and Sean knows this in my Viber group. There are 5 things to think about. First is the SALN being public. I think they've done that. Second, the ICC hearings to be live. I think they've already initiated these things. The third being passing the anti-dynasty bill. Oh, it will take time. The fourth is basically work on the other corruption cases before, like PDAF and the other cases that were in the previous years. So that would be a good way to create a proof of concept of fixing corruption. Of course, the fifth, the Colosseum needs blood. Somebody has to go to jail. So out of these 5, we've seen 2. It's a work in progress. So I think we've initially seen a peak negative sentiment, but it doesn't mean that people are kind enough to forget about it. And, there's another rally on November 30. So the recent movie Quezon also sparks a very similar theme. What happened in the 1930s and probably today are quite similar. So that could continue to reignite probably by November 30.
2 out of 5, but number 1, but yung SALN, there are questions about the accuracy of what the senators declared. And number 2, live streaming nga daw, but we've yet to see the rules. We've been pushing for it, but we've yet to see anything. They said they're still talking about it. So I'll give it half and half points. Technically 1 lang. I'm kidding. Thank you for talking to us tonight,
Very
economist and analyst from Reyes Tacandong & Co. That's Jonathan Ravelas. Thank you, sir.
Right, and now shifting to sports, the Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas, or SBP, has announced a new Board of Trustees. This follows the ratification of SBP's updated bylaws at the National Congress earlier this year. Under the new structure, the board will have 17 seats, with 13 selected by the Federation's active members to ensure broad sectoral representation across Philippine basketball. And in accordance with the bylaws, the remaining 4 were filled by the board, 2 co-opted members appointed by the president, a player representative, and an interim 3x3 representative. Notably, 10 of the 17 trustees are first-time members, reflecting the Federation's push for fresh perspectives while maintaining continuity. The new board immediately convened and elected officers with our very own Manuel V. Pangilinan, or MVP, as chairman, and Ricky Vargas as president. Vargas succeeds Al Panlilio, who remains on the board as a FIBA Central Board member.
And for our big picture tonight, it's none other than Vice President Sara Duterte getting into the Halloween and showgirl spirit at the same time. The VP dressed as Snow White for a party, but there is more. A known Swiftie, she got on the fate of Ophelia craze. Have you guys seen this video? And danced to Taylor Swift's latest hit with 2 of her friends who are also in Halloween costumes. One supporter captioned Sarah's latest video with, quote, "Just a Snow White in her Swiftie era." However, not everyone is tickled by the Disney princess video, calling her a vice president in her, quote, "La Cuachera Eras tour." Critics once again made reference to Duterte's foreign trips and confidential funds.
Okay, I have to say I thought it was AI at first. I thought the video was AI.
I know other people who thought that too. La
You know-
Cochera Eras tour, that's so
I
funny.
thought it looked real because the video quality wasn't like super sharp like AI.
But they can do that nowadays, make it not so clear.
Oh yeah, to make it look more
Yeah,
legit.
pero mas realistic. I wonder why Snow White though was her choice for her.
Oh nga, where were the 7 dwarves?
I know, I was looking for that. Maybe her kids and nieces and nephews
Were the seven dwarves?
I don't know. Snow White's always super popular during Halloween. I've seen like 1,000 of them already.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
Right?
But we know the vice president, and whatever she does, it's always sending a signal. So I wonder what signal this is sending, right?
There is a Maleficent in the back.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't
that's
know
what
who
it's
the
supposed to
pink one-
be.
the pink
Okay,
girl.
I
I'm
didn't
not
get
sure
it.
who the
She's
other
sweet.
girl.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
But
we
yeah,
have-
there's Maleficent.
That's something to think about tonight. But for this Tuesday, that's it for the big story. Thank you so much for watching.
We are back here tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. We'll be seeing you then.
At Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Good night. Thanks for watching.
Well, do stay tuned because we still have a lot of sports coming up next. We have play-by-play with Andre Felix and Bea Escudero. Anong
Hi.
pinagchichikahan nyo dyan?
Yung katabi ko kasi nag-Snow White daw dati ng grade school din. So,
Oh, in grade school.
O, sino bang hindi nag-Snow White? Ikaw nag-Snow White?
Me.
No, I did
The
Belle,
Grinch.
Beauty and the Beast.
You were Belle?
Yeah.
I was also Snow White kasi short hair. So lang yung princess na short hair.
si Maleficent pala yung kalaban.
Yeah, that's why I
Diba?
also
What's
didn't realize.
No,
Siya ba?
with the-
I don't.
Yung katabi
Or
Yung
niya.
katabi.
Beauty.
I don't know.
Di ba Sleeping Beauty?
Oh yes, you're right.
the
Sleeping
ano, the
Beauty
evil
is
queen.
Correct.
Yeah,
I don't know. These fairy tales are all the same.
Basta theme sila.
Thank you once again. Great show. Big story, Reg, Sean, and Pauline. On our show, no Snow White, but we've got...
Snow White.
Ito, no Snow White ng grade school. We've got the latest scores from the NBA, plus another suspended player in UAAP basketball.
And we've got updates on Filipino tennis sensation Alex Ayala's latest campaign.
I'm Andre Felix.
And I'm Bea Escudero sitting in for Cheska Liton Calao.
And here's tonight's play-by-play.